Well, welcome and thank you for joining the Circular Strategies podcast, Tim.
Hey, my pleasure. Looking forward to it, Bob.
So, Tim, why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So I'm Tim Ridderbos, born and raised here in St. Louis, Missouri. Got into the recycling and sustainability business just over 7 years ago. Actually was recruited by Bob. I was his Caterpillar salesman, selling equipment into Shapiro and other folks in the industry. And didn't really know much about this industry. Didn't know much really what happens to all the material that we use throughout our lives. And really had my eyes opened. I started here, and Bob sent me through. You sent me through a 6-month training course. Literally started sweeping the floors in the plants and operating some of the equipment that I had sold in, and running balers and hand sorting, all the way through having a week as a plant manager in our Mobile yard. So really, abbreviated compared to a lot of folks in this industry who were born into this, but definitely got my bottom up opportunity here to really learn about this business, and started as a national account manager. So our big multi-location industrial manufacturers, they needed someone to help them at a corporate level. And so I was given that opportunity to work with some of those big customers and help them sync their programs across multiple locations. But, from very early on, we realized we had a big problem where, we've got 10 physical locations, with Shapiro in St. Louis being the northernmost, and going down to El Paso on one side and past Atlanta on the other. And, these multi-location manufacturers have locations from coast to coast, Canada to Mexico, and needed more help than we could provide with our physical footprint. That's what really, I think, birthed the idea of circular and what we're doing today. In developing processes and partners to really have a network, an ecosystem of sustainability partners that we can serve our multi-location manufacturers from coast to coast, to Canada to Mexico. And so that's what I've been doing the last couple of years, functioning as the GM of the circular business.
So how did you come to be involved in the circular journey? How did that happen?
Yeah, it's when I started here, Bob, and you were a couple of years before me, we were metals focused. We're a 120-year-old company, and all we thought about was metal. We only wanted to deal with metal. If we had to take paper, plastic, wood, cardboard, we did it kind of because we had to. But then, there was this opportunity. We started hearing a little bit different conversations from our large multi-location manufacturing customers. They were starting to talk a little more about sustainability. And then we were given an opportunity through a combination of one of our customer service reps who really had good visibility to the needs of a customer, and that same customer coming to us and looking for a solution. We had this opportunity to take this site that had a huge number of pickups every year for their trash, which, again, trash, not really something that we were used to working with. They had some logistics problems. They needed some equipment to handle that stream of material better, and they were looking for dollar savings, and they were looking to get it all out of the landfill. So this is very far removed from what we were really used to doing. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is the culture that's been built here at Shapiro is looking for challenges, kind of breaking through norms, doing things a little differently, and being willing to take some risks. The Shapiro team jumped in. We were able to help this customer go from like 450 pickups a year for their trash, take out a bunch of cardboard, recycle it, take that 450 pickups a year, turn it into 45. So, eliminated, over 400 diesel burning trash trucks going to the landfill, just poof. We were able to put in some equipment to make those payloads more effective. And as a result, we took all that trash that still remained, diverted it from the landfill, took it to waste to energy. And the savings that happened because of those reduced trips wasn't in the mid six figures. It was a really nice savings for the customer. And lo and behold, we weren't doing it for an award, but with this big publicly traded customer, Shapiro won the 2020 Global Sustainability Award from the customer, and it was really this eye opener for us. So in the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of everything else going on, we had won this big award for sustainability. It's like, hey, there's something to this that we haven't been paying attention to before. And not only did this customer have a need, but every single other customer that we have has trash, has cardboard, has wood waste. It was this whole new set of opportunities for us to go in and help customers, help them save money, help them keep stuff out of the landfill, help us to be more than a supplier that was helping with a commodity that could be easily put on a spreadsheet. And so it was really through this evolution, and the leadership in the company to lean in and try some new stuff, that we saw an opportunity, we took it, and it changed the mentality and it changed the direction of the company from that point.
It's obvious you're obviously very passionate about it, but on a more personal level, why is that important to you? Why does that connect you to what you're doing?
I'm a big outdoorsman. I mean, if I'm not sitting in the office, I'd like to be, on a bike ride with my family. I'd like to be hunting. I'd like to be fishing. I'd like to be hiking. That's where I love to spend my time. And, I see all the benefits of, this huge, economy that we have, all the people that are lifted out of debt because of it, and poverty, really throughout the world. It's been an incredible change, but it also comes with a lot of problems. I mean, we are now a make, take, waste economy. The amount of waste that you see at the end of your curb, just in your neighborhood, is dwarfed by what's happening on an industrial level, here in America and across the world. And, I've got a 5.5-year-old. She's incredible. She loves the outdoors as much as me and my wife do. At the end of the day, like I believe one of the big reasons why we're here is to take care of this beautiful planet that we have. And I want her to have the same opportunities, to enjoy wildlife, to enjoy nature, to enjoy clean water, that I've had. And to some degree, it's been taken away, from my generation. I heard a stat that, every week we ingest one credit card's worth of plastic through our drinking water, right? I mean, we've got some major issues that we've got to deal with. There's a lot of disease with chemicals. There's a lot of disease with this PFAS. There's a lot of just trash and waste buildup in our oceans and water. And if we can really, at an industrial level, help people recycle, that's huge. Keep it out of landfill. That's huge. And the other thing about that is when you recycle material, be it aluminum, be it plastic, be it reusing wood, from pallets, so you don't have to cut down another tree to make a new pallet. That's all really good stuff that is helping, conserve this beautiful planet that we're on, so that, my daughter, your kids, their kids, really has something beautiful to enjoy, as the generations continue. And that's a huge mission, that I think a lot of people are really waking up to.
How has your role and that passion affected what are you doing different? How are you approaching things differently since you started this journey?
Yeah. I'll say that transition has, it's been a challenge for me, in all the best ways. I mean, when I started, I started as an individual producer. That's really how, my career has been, really up until the last couple of years. I'm a sales guy by nature. It's what I've done, forever, and I love it. And as the company has evolved, and as I have been afforded the opportunities to go out and experiment and try things and learn, that's been the biggest shift for me. Is we've got a team now that we've built that's doing a lot of different things that has to have a really steep learning curve. And it's been my challenge to be better and continue to get better at disseminating information, helping others, and really leveraging, all the tools that Shapiro has, for the benefit of the rest of the team, so that they can go out and do a good job as they continue to serve their customers.
So more specifically, has it caused you, your household, things at work to kind of change? Are you approaching things from a circular standpoint differently? How's that evolved?
Can you clarify a little more from a sustainability side, you mean?
Yeah. From the sustainability side, I mean, everything that we've talked about to this point has been kind of around that change, that evolution.
Yeah.
How's that evolution affecting how you, others you're associated with, how's it affecting their approach to the community?
So I'll say, back when I was a Caterpillar rep selling those tractors, we used to always joke that we had our equipment radar on all the time, right? We're always looking at job sites and seeing how many pieces of Cat equipment there are versus competitive equipment. And it's something I still do a little bit actually, but now I think myself and my family, from a personal level, we've got our recycling radar on. I mean, my little daughter, she can identify any recycling yard, as we drive by. Oh, look, there's a recycling yard. And I did have to change that for her because a lot of the little cartoons, they all call it scrap yards, right? And there's I think a different language that's probably more helpful for people to understand. So now she'll call them recycling yards. She'll point out litter that she sees on the side of the road, and she's into recycling, what we're producing in our house as well. But that also changes, from a professional level, whereas we used to just go into customers' facilities and look at the metal and see, okay, you're mixing this, or you're not getting weights here. There's a process improvement you could do with this. Now we're dumpster diving for lack of a better term. We had this opportunity come up in Atlanta a year ago where we had one of our reps walking through a facility, and she was looking at the dumpsters that were on site, the trash dumpsters, and she noticed that, hey, like 75% of the trash at this place is cardboard, right? Well, cardboard shouldn't go into landfill, but more than that, they're paying to get it picked up. They're paying to landfill it. And in this case, the contract that they had with their waste guys, had them paying for a minimum of 3 tons per pickup. Well, you throw cardboard in a dumpster, you're not going to get 3 tons. And so we ended up collecting all their data, and that's a big thing too. I mean, whether we're producing data for a customer on the back end or on the front end, asking for what data they had, we went in and we did a full analysis. We understood how much they were paying just to transport air to the landfill. Obviously that cardboard's got revenue to it if you package it the right way. And, our team was able to deploy a baler, help them bale that cardboard, get revenue on the cardboard, significantly reduce, their trash pickup. I think there was about 100 trash pickups. It was on an automatic pickup regimen over there that they eliminated a year and saved tens of thousands of dollars for the whole program, including the cost of that baler. And so that's what's really changed professionally, for myself and at the organization. We're looking at more stuff than we used to. I mean, you used to go into a plant and have blinders on and, okay, I just want to see your metal and everything else is a hassle. And, I think really at this stage in the game, there is so much low-hanging fruit when you visit customer facilities. At the end of the day, and maybe we can talk about the biggest challenges as we try to implement these programs. But at the end of the day, the trash, the waste, the recycling, it's the lowest on a long line of priorities for a manufacturer. So we've got some work to do to help people see what those opportunities are.
It sounds like you and Circular by Shapiro are all in on this. What is it that Circular by Shapiro is striving for?
At the end of the day, Circular by Shapiro is striving for 2 main things. The first thing is we want to build the most efficient supply network for material to flow, agnostic to whether it comes through a Shapiro plant or one of our partner plants. And build the very best mousetrap we can to keep the most amount of material out of the landfill, recycle as much as possible, and look at that from an efficiency and revenue creating standpoint or cost reduction, depending on what we're doing, right? That's part A. Part B is with the legislation that's coming, what's happening in Europe with the CSRD, what's happening here with scopes 1, 2, and 3, there is going to be an incredible hunger for data and measurement of all this material and everything that's happening with an industrial manufacturer. So part B of Circular by Shapiro is to develop very robust data reporting systems so that our customers can really understand what's happening. But more than that, the measurement of something is just the first step. If you actually want to get better, you have to start with that measurement and then set KPIs to improve things over time. So it's not just to tell you, hey, great, this happened. You've got this many tons that are recycled. It's, well, hey, let's use this data to look at your scrap rate. Let's use this data to see how many pallets you're actually getting. Let's use this data to understand what improvements we can make from a sustainability aspect. And a lot of times that does come with dollar savings if you can return material, if you can create a circular program, if you can get it to the right home or eliminate it in the first place. Those are really the super chargers to any sort of recycling program.
You said earlier that you helped a customer go zero landfill, and you talked about what you're striving for with regard to optimizing waste streams and adding data. But could you tell us what Circular by Shapiro really does specifically? What do you guys do at Circular by Shapiro?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it starts with understanding the data, understanding what a customer has currently got going on. So whereas in the past, a lot of times, you'd engage with the customer on an RFQ and a spreadsheet for the metal. We really approach things from a different aspect. We're looking at this from a consultative standpoint. We want to help you. We need to understand what's happening as well. So we really strive to understand the data and what's actually going on and what's missing from the data, because a lot of times there's a lot of information that's missing from the data. So that's the first thing. Secondly, once we understand the current state of things, we look at each one of the material streams, right? And we say, all right, what are we going to do, with this and that, and who is the very best, place for this material to end up? And we build out, that network. At the end of the day, too, a lot of these customers, if you just take a single site, they might have 5 different suppliers in the alley. Well, we want to own that alley. We want to be the single call, the single customer service point of contact, the single, APAR interface with the customers. We want to own that alley completely so that they don't have to think about this. They don't have to worry about this. And from a high level, they can get reports on what they can do better, how they can look at things differently, what opportunities are there to improve. And then, not only do we want to do that in a single site, but we want to manage that for a large corporation. So, whereas they might have 5 different vendors in one alley, well, if they've got 15 locations across the country, that's 60 different vendors that they got to manage. Well, and 60 different web portals or spreadsheets or invoices that they're getting. If we can manage that all through one system, one set of processes, so everybody does everything the same way, from their call-ins for requests for pickups to how they segregate their material. That's all huge. I mean, we've got one customer where we built them a training document for all 350 of their sites. Now, we didn't manage all 350 of their sites, but if you went on their intranet right now, you can see pictures of their metal types, how to keep it separate, things they should think about, things they should look out for. We even built a very robust set of processes for every single site too. So we've done a lot to really, build a comprehensive program and then funnel that all into a single set of data to help our customers.
That's outstanding. I was wondering, how does Circular by Shapiro interact with circular strategies?
Yeah.
What is it? What are you guys doing to make the planet better?
I think that question begs, what do we even mean by circularity, right? And I think there's probably a lot of different definitions of it, a lot of different perspectives on it. But as far as what we're concerned, it's really how can we take material, that the economy is using, that us as individuals are using, and then specifically for Circular by Shapiro, that our manufacturers are using, and continue to reuse that material over and over again as many times as possible, right? So that's really what we mean when we say circularity. And that's important for a couple of reasons, right? So let's just take aluminum, for example. Now you can go and mine bauxite out of the ground. You can process it, and you can make that into aluminum, right? Well, that whole process takes between 80 and 90% more energy than it does just to simply recycle that aluminum that's already in use. So obviously you can see the recycling is very beneficial just as far as that goes. But in the process even of making aluminum, a lot of people don't know that are outside of the industry, but it's basically a 2-to-1 ratio of the stuff called bauxite residue or red mud that's created for every single unit of aluminum. So again, if you make 1 ton of nice new aluminum, you've got 2 tons of basically this toxic sludge that nobody knows what to do with. Um, and so really it's that level of importance that we have to find as many circular options for material as we can. And it's not just aluminum. I mean, you think about wood and wooden pallets, right? You've got to cut down a tree, you make a pallet, you use it once or twice if it's not tracked, and then it ends up a lot of times in the landfill. And in that case, it actually turns into methane. So as we think about helping our customers, reuse this material as much as possible and keep it going in the form that it's in for as long as we can. That's really the ultimate goal of circularity and Circular by Shapiro.
So when you talk about circularity, is Shapiro strictly doing recycling? Are they doing repurposing or extending the life or handling the end of life as it pertains to the economy and the circular economy?
Yeah. Well, the answer is we're doing more than only recycling. And it's interesting because I thought I knew recycling after having been in this business for 5 years at the time. And then I started to get some formal education for recycling, sustainability, regenerative principles, within the economy. And, if you look at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, they've got the butterfly is what they call it. And it really talks about kind of the levels of recycling and sustainability that there are. And it goes everywhere from recycling to refurbishment to reuse to just simple maintenance. And really the lowest score there is actually recycling.
Is that an opportunity or is that a threat to your business?
I think it's 100% an opportunity. Just as much as it is so much better to recycle. Again, we'll just pick on aluminum. Recycle aluminum versus mining and getting new aluminum out of the ground from the bauxite refining process. It's so much better to reuse. So again, instead of taking a pallet and grinding it up and turning it into mulch, that's great. That's better than throwing it in the landfill. But if you can collect those pallets, refurbish them, reuse them, that's so much better, for that material that's already been harvested from the earth, right? So we are always looking for those types of creative solutions beyond recycling, so that we can continue to use the material at its highest and best use for as long as possible.
So in your role and what your company does, are you doing anything in your view that no one else is doing?
I think we are. I think we're looking at things a lot differently. Um, and I think the biggest thing that we're doing that is incredibly important to the direction that we're going is really this open-handed, open-minded approach. There are some programs that we have with customers that are completely outside anything within the reuse recycling programs that you might traditionally think of from a recycled materials company.
Tell us about something interesting you're doing.
So, for example, we've got a customer where at the end of life for their air conditioner units, if that unit breaks because of some sort of warranty issue, We actually collect those all at one of our facilities. We've got an entire process for this customer set up where we'll go ahead and test all those units, record the data about where the fail points were, and report that data back to their engineers so that they can continue to improve their product. So that there's less waste, that there's less material failing, in a timeline, and making sure that the products that they put out actually have extended life in the field. So, that's beyond recycling. It's beyond reuse. It's helping our customers make their products better to last longer.
So, knowing what you know now, what are the real problems that need to be resolved in the short term?
I mean, the first one's data. The waste is always the bottom of the stack. At a manufacturing facility. Even when you have a whole bunch of savings you can offer a customer to do more recycling and more reuse of the material, it's sometimes hard to get their attention. You might have $100,000 worth of savings that you're offering a customer or a prospect. And they might say, that's great, that's good, $100,000 is nice, but I'm putting in a $30 million automated line. My priorities are not $100,000 stuff. My priorities are, 7-8 figure stuff. And so that's, I think, one of the biggest challenges we have is getting the focus and the right time with the right people on the right sustainable problems, that can be fixed in these manufacturers. And the answer to that is time. It's having a whole bunch of opportunities to be helping folks. And at the end of the day, it's going to happen on their timeline and not ours. So that's okay. We'll continue to be there, be consistent, and continue to help show the way.
Well, is it about the cost and the profit and the 100,000 versus the line, or is there a different value that hasn't been realized yet? And
tell me more. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you have an opportunity for a particular amount of savings. That's wonderful. But is there something beyond just those savings that does it affect the morale of the team? Are there generational concerns that might make it more? Is there brand issues that a company might encounter if they did something a little bit more environmentally friendly than focusing on? I mean, is there a problem with the equation? Is the math messed up today?
Yeah, I think the equation is changing, and that's where I think there's a lot of hope. I was recently at
So you're saying it is evolving?
It's definitely evolving. Yeah, I was recently at a big Circularity conference, and I'll tell you, the demographics were a lot of young folks were there, and these young folks were in very high positions at a lot of large brands that you would recognize. And I think as the demographics shift, as the next generation is taking the reins in a lot of these large manufacturers, they've grown up learning about sustainability, caring about what's happening. They've grown up with the messaging that's pointing out the problems that have been created, and I think a lot of them really have a strong passion to really make the planet better together. And as that equation starts to shift and change its balance, yes, the savings are good and important. And right now, you've got to combine that sustainability story with the savings story with the business case, right? And that's going to continue. That's not going to go away. But there's going to be a lot more people at higher levels of these companies that see, hey, we don't want to have this material go to landfill. Hey, we want this to be reused. Hey, we want this weird, odd shaped size packaging that I have to pay to dispose of in a landfill to get returned back to the people who sent me the packaging in the first place so that they can reuse that. There's a lot of that coming.
So I have heard that generation described as born circular. And for them and for you, what are the typical obstacles you encounter? And furthermore, are the problems technical or scientific, or are they mindset and change management? Are they people issues? What
Yeah.
what are the biggest obstacles to making real impact?
Mhm. So I think the biggest obstacle is just there's no spotlight on it, right? So if you go into any modern factory, manufacturer's facility, you're going to see nice big LED screens above every station with this KPI and this is produced and here's how you're doing here. In fact, shoot, I was at a Chick-fil-A with my daughter last week, and it was one with the big sliding doors that open up in the drive-through, and inside of there, they've got a computer screen reporting their KPIs and how long the cars are waiting and accuracy orders and whatever else they want to track. It's all on a screen so the whole team can see it. I think one of the biggest problems that faces manufacturers today is the fact that there's no KPI on waste at the material handler level. There's no reports going to that level on a consistent basis. Industry wide, that the people who are touching material, moving material, hopefully putting it into the right spot or not putting cardboard in with the trash. Right now, there's no reporting. There's not a lot of tech. There's a big gap there where you could take a lot of the principles from the person actually punching out the part and apply those to the person moving the material to where it should or shouldn't go and reporting. And you could apply all types of interesting, very cheap technology and AI enabled cameras and different things to tell you, hey, we saw that you guys, put in 13 dump hoppers of material into the trash, and we identified that 25% of that was cardboard, and here's the impact that could have been if you recycled it, and more than that, here's how much you're paying to send that cardboard to the landfill. Here's what percentage of your pickup fee that cardboard is going to cost you, and here's the credit that you would have gotten if you baled it and recycled it. So I think until we run the alley the same way we run the actual manufacturing side of these facilities, there's going to be just loads of opportunity for folks to make improvements, introduce technology, and help people actually measure, manage, and improve on what.
That's a good segue. Have you done any of that? What kind of success, have you had? What kind of impact has Circular by Shapiro made? Can you share some of those stories with us?
Yeah. I think the biggest opportunity, going back to that one where we won that award for, they didn't have any good reporting. It took a long time to get the data so that we could see how many pickups they had and their average payloads. But now, we're able to basically tell them, hey, look, or they can tell themselves, they can log in and they can see it. Hey, your average payload right now is making it up 5.5 tons. Well, that compactor that you got can do 7, right? So if you want another 20% efficiency and this much savings, here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to report back to the people on the ground at the toolbox talk, right? Like there's a lot of that, that you can do once you're measuring it. So, that's what excites me. The technology stuff, I just wrote a paper on it. We're not there yet. I think there's a lot of people sniffing around the solution and a lot of different people that can help with that. And I'd love to see that brought into fruition one day, because I think that could help in a more instantaneous and kind of in your face way than reporting back top down.
A lot of this is a really new space with lots of moving parts and lots of things that seem like solutions that might actually be an experiment. Do you guys have any interesting experiments going on, and that could be game changing?
I wouldn't qualify this one as game changing, but we do have an interesting experiment in the works. So I've got a customer that bids out loads of aluminum aerospace, and so there's certainly relationships there, but each load is 100% spread fee. And they'll have a load of 70/50 in 2024 or whatever else. And it's all spreadsheet every time. The thing is, though, they came to us and they said, hey, we've got all this dunnage, all this wood, this custom built slats of wood that comes on our slabs that we're cutting down. And we get tens of thousands of these a year, right? And we're paying to landfill these, and it's just a real bummer. It's costing us, and we got to handle it, and it just seems like a waste. And we're in the very beginning parts of the conversations here, but what we ended up doing is tracking back to the folks that make these very custom, pieces of wood dunnage, and we figured out what the cost for each one of these things was. Then we figured out, okay, you can stack these on a pallet and you get so many on a trailer. And if you filled up that trailer with these things, what kind of cost savings is the company looking at? And when you actually did the math, these pieces of wood were actually more valuable per pound than pure 70/50 solid scrap. So when you start thinking about things a little differently and you look a little bit outside the box, we actually found something for this customer that is more valuable than the scrap they were bidding. And so that's the kind of real exciting stuff that we love sinking our teeth into, thinking about it a different way. And so we're just at the very beginning stages of conversations about how to improve that. But the pathway's there, and if we walk through it, I think it's going to be an absolutely awesome program.
I'm sure there's a lot more examples like that. Is Circular by Shapiro happy with its progress so far, and what's next for you guys?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm one of those guys that it's hard to be happy with progress because there's always more to do. And this is, as they might say, a target-rich environment. And you can't go fast enough, and things are changing so quickly. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Bob, you talk about, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this a little bit, but how quickly technology is changing. So I'm very excited with how we've rethought how we look at business, how we rethought how our reps interact with customers. And I'm very happy with a lot of the programs that we put in place and the opportunities we've gotten just by looking at things from a holistic sustainability standpoint, in addition to the metal recycling piece. But where are you at with all this and the technology?
It's a massive problem, right? I mean, and it has so many different variables associated with it, and things are being developed as solutions. You have data. There's an opportunity for some things to be better interrelated, and they're definitely interconnected. You have trade-offs you have to make in today's environment. It's an incredibly complex system that's under rapid evolution, and I think that's what makes this space so exciting and so full of opportunities. With that being said, what's the next big thing for Circular by Shapiro, for you, and what do you foresee for the industry?
I think the next big thing is just going places we haven't been before. I mean, I was in D.C. a couple weeks ago talking with someone at one of the biggest lobbying firms in the country about the Inflation Reduction Act and the money that's in there, the funding for different recyclers, different programs, different things that are out there, and how legislation gets crafted, why the legislation gets crafted, and how important, just the individual language that's in there can be to really help a company spool up and succeed or not. Some of the more recent contacts that the organization has made is helping us just make connections with new people who are thinking about things from a completely different standpoint, talking to people who have developed incredible technology that's going to be an absolute game changer, and thinking about how we can take all these pieces and plug them together. It's just like, Transformers toy when you were 5-year-old, right? You got, this guy and this guy and this guy, and you put them all together and you've got Megatron, right? Like that's what we want to build at Circular Shapiro, this supercomputer of the ecosystem, the technology, the services, the consulting, all those things, really building a hyper machine to help customers, achieve more circularity, more recycling, more reuse.
What's the next big thing for you?
The next big thing for me. Well, right now, and I've been incredibly blessed by this company to actually pursue formal study. So right now, I am working on a master's in sustainability, and it's been a real eye opener. Talking with people from all over the world, every walk of life, dealing with all kinds of problems on this globe that we live on, and it's been a little shocking. I mean, if I were to ask you, think about all the mammals all across the world, right? What percentage of all the mammals, so that's you, that's me, it's the bears, it's the deer, whatever. What percentage of mammals are wild animals today? What do you think?
Very small percentage. I wouldn't have a guess.
Yeah,
What is it?
It's 4%. So you think about deer, bear, whatever, antelope, only 4% of all the mammals on the planet are wild. 36% of all mammals are humans. And then the balance, 60% is livestock, right? So you think about that, like, what we've built here is something that rests so narrowly on what's actually wild, and everything else is either humans or large farming operations. And it's not just with animals. I mean, that's the same thing with our supply chains, with energy, with all this stuff. So we've got some big challenges that we need to think about. And so the larger platform we can get to help more people, especially in manufacturing, to think about these things and maybe approach things a little differently. That's where we want to go.
That's a somber statistic for sure.
Yeah.
What is impossible today that you think will occur in the next 5 years?
Oh man, I think it's really I won't say impossible, but we're not there yet. I think it's the data, the KPIs on waste leaving a facility in the manner that I talked about, AI cameras, instant KPIs on a flat screen, right? Like, I think that's coming. I'd love to work on that. I think that's great. I think it's better circularity programs. You drive through your neighborhood and you see all the Amazon boxes sticking out of the trash cans on trash day. It's like, that just breaks my heart. And I think thinking about how to return those, when the Amazon delivery guy drops off your next package, like those types of circularity programs, not obviously just for Amazon, but for a lot of the other things we're doing, I think are going to become more important. It seems impossible now, but it's not, and I think a lot's going to change. And then just better reporting. Again, some of the technology we recently looked at, has got some of the factors to it that I think are going to be helpful. But how can we really know that, hey, your specific alloy is going back to this specific mill, going back to you, and then what happens more importantly when it comes back from the field, and how do we think about breakdown, destruction? How do we actually design for circularity up front?
Yeah.
I think that's the other big gap is, we make stuff and make it efficient. It's great. You got to do that. Your business. But how do we think about the second life of not only that unit, but the material that's contained within it? And how do we think about those things? Again, there are some companies that do it, but how do we do that, across the board to think about, all right, I make this product 20 years from now, it's coming off of its life. How easy did we make it to keep the alloys separate, or to keep these components, able to be taken out so they can be refurbished, reused, and the parts replaced. Caterpillar, for example, does a great job. I mean, they build their equipment, so that can be rebuilt and rebuilt and rebuilt. And how do we do that with more of the products that we use every day?
It's an interesting point that you make. The statistic with regards to the mammals, or even the credit card earlier, are staggering and emotional kind of results of this. And yet the solutions are in technology and science. And I think not only is the ecosystem interconnected, but this is all very interconnected in a really massive way. So, Tim, obviously you're quite accomplished in this area. Where do you go to learn and stay current?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, certainly, the formal education is great, and there, I'll tell you that goes everything from, there are incredibly inexpensive classes to take online, to, again, going all the way up to the pursuit of a master's. There are a lot of different conferences that are available beyond what you would think about in the normal materials world, which again, those are incredibly important. But there's different conferences. There's a lot of people working on a lot of different threads of this and getting out of kind of where you or your company normally plays, and making different connections, I think is incredibly helpful. And then I would say too, for anybody in the recycled materials space, REMA is an incredibly helpful resource. They have webinars all the time. I mean, I just listened to one last week on regulations for scope free and some other things that you need to be thinking about with regards to that. They've got all kinds of classes, all kinds of webinars that are free for members, that anybody who's a member can access and learn from. And that it's such an easy thing for anybody who's a member there. I can't recommend it enough. They had an entire semester on ESG in the fall of 2023. They probably had 8 classes, or webinars that they went through on all different topics. I mean, the learning opportunities are incredible there, and I can't recommend it enough.
And for anyone that wants to get to connect with you or connect with Circular by Shapiro, how would they do that?
Yep. So just find me on LinkedIn. Pretty active on there. That's been a huge help for connecting with a lot of people too. So that's a really great point, Bob. So find me on LinkedIn, send me a message, and let's talk.
Was there something I should have asked you that I didn't?
I'd like to ask you. I mean, Shapiro's tagline is "Making the planet better together." What was the process for coming up with that, and why is that important to us as an organization?
I think that making the planet better together is really an important purpose for all the things we've discussed today. But to me, making the planet better is really about the circular economy, reducing waste, protecting our natural resources. The thing that's really important is together. And I think together embodies the 120 years of Shapiro collaboratively working with its partners and collaboratively working together. And I think that the process, we probably had at least close to a third of our company participate in building the purpose of Shapiro in a very interactive, facilitated manner. And I think what we came up with is pretty special and dead accurate about who we are. So I'll give you the last words, but before I do, Tim, thank you for joining Circular Strategies podcast. You have an amazing story and a tremendous amount of passion about this topic. And I leave the last words with you with this question. What do you hope that this conversation, that our listeners will take away?
What I hope is that people see the opportunity that's in front of us as folks in the recycled materials industry. The opportunities are endless and they're growing. I think for our manufacturing customers, to know that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there in the alley, and there is an incredible opportunity to tell some really great stories. My job, boil it down, is to make a hero out of the customer that I'm working with, and help them tell that story about the good things that they're doing, whether that's telling it to the head of EH&S or telling it on a shareholder report about how they're able to do this from a sustainability aspect. That's the kind of stuff that we want, and really for everybody else. There's a lot of big challenges that we've got on our planet, but every individual has got a buy-in in that, got a stake in that, and so we can really do some good things. The more we collaborate, the more we work together, the more we talk, and the more we, Bob, and I really learned this from you, have a really open-minded approach to things and take off our blinders and think about things in new ways and say yes to challenges that don't fit inside of our nice, neat little boxes. There's a ton of learning, and we better learn as quickly as we can because things are changing, and the ones who learn the most are going to have the most impact.
Well, Tim, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.